Hi, ladies. In this episode, we're going to talk about what to do and how to behave and how to read men who are what I call slow movers. These are all the men who are wanting to be friends, getting to know each other, and are really moving things slow, saying that perhaps this is a friendship, but you feel dating vibes. And it's a very tricky situation because this man is not moving very fast, or it might feel like he's not a pursuer, so to say. And so these situations happen very often. And this is coming from a client of mine who, following my advice, was staying curious and open to dating different types of men. And she attracted a man into her life. I think he's 50. He's been married before for about 20 years. And so for him, obviously, dating is quite new. And he has left the marriage. So obviously, he's now dating or pursuing other women or opening to other women. She was unclear about his intentions because he just said, I'm going to drop by while walking my dog to just say hi and be friendly. I want to explore friendship, stuff like that. And she's actually on an interaction with him asked what his intentions are, which is a valid question, to which he replied, well, she said that he was quite awkward about it and couldn't finish his sentence. And she has, by the way, set up a boundary and a shit sandwich, how I call it and teach it, where she has communicated that she's available to date men who are interested in her and who are interested in pursuing her, to which he replied that he's not ready to date yet because he wants to first get to know the person to find if the person is compatible. Of course, there's many different layers here, right? There's a layer of this man, this particular man and this particular situation, which is, look, a guy who's been married for 20 years and is 50, I can totally understand how that situation, he's going to take it extremely slow because of many different reasons, right? Versus a guy who's in his 30s, is like super eager, is dating, he hasn't been, what shall I say? He hasn't had that experience yet, right? So we got to distinguish that, right? We also got to understand the difference between a slow mover and a fast mover. My husband was a slow mover. If you know my story, my husband was a hell no in the beginning. I didn't even understand what the hell was happening. Like, is he interested or is he not interested? Because he was working in the same cafes where I was working, but never ever he's approached or asked for my number, asked me directly on a date, right? So there's different types of men and masculine flavors, and there's men who going head on and walking straight to you in the bar, asking for your number and calling you after that, or directly setting up a date, right? Like, great, who doesn't love a man like that? Caveat, where you actually are attracted to him and he's not being an asshole, right? So we like that, but we also want that to be firm, but don't be an asshole, and be in your masculine energy, but also be in your healthy masculine energy. So that's another conversation. But my husband wasn't like that. And there are many men who are not like that for many different reasons. Maybe it is indeed their masculine flavor. They're not forceful, like personality-wise. Things that you need to remember is that most men are masculine energy beings, which means that they thrive on the masculine energy of they're going to hold space for you. They're going to open doors. They're going to pay the bill. They want to take care of you. They want to play that provider, protector type of a role. How much of that energy is developed in them? That's a completely different question, in the same way of how much is that feminine energy developed in women. But anyways, it might be personality. Like my husband is he's a Gemini. I don't know if you're into astrology. Actually, he's extremely ambitious and he's got that masculine drive and energy. Well, I know how he behaves with people. He's a guy that you'll really like to be around and you feel good about the guy. You know what I mean? Like you call him when you need help. He's cracking jokes all the time. So I can see how, he's the type of a man who wouldn't go straight forward. A lot of men have been burnt in the past by having this approach. A lot of them have dealt with rejection. If a man has been married to a woman for 20 years who has constantly, let's say, for example, I don't know what this man's story is, but for example, if he has been emasculated by his wife and before by his mother, there's no way, unless this man really is going to pause and work up himself for quite some time to embody the masculine energy again, to become confident and to really lead with that, there's no way he's going to go straight ahead. And I find in my experience of studying men under the microscope, with age, that kind of hard pursuer, that subsides a little bit. And part of it is because, the ego is not driving you anymore. Like, this man has been married for 20 years, for example, and he's probably had children, and he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. He just really wants to get to know a beautiful woman and see if this leads anywhere, right? So that also might be the reason. As I said, there's many different reasons. Now, you don't need to know the reasons. What you need to do, and what I am advising my client to do, is to, first of all, remember that most men are masculine essence beings, which she had experienced in her. This is not a dating experience according to him, but it is a dating experience, because what is dating? And I think that this man perhaps is equating, dating to a relationship. So, and I see this confusion happen a lot. It's important to talk about terminology and what do we mean by the words and definitions that we use. What I use when we say dating, and I think that in terms of my client, I would actually clarify that, right? Especially when you're dealing with men who are older, maybe they're old school. Maybe for him, dating, I mean, like, what is dating? What is a relationship? A lot of people think that dating is actually a relationship, but it's not. A lot of people, especially in the older generation, you might think that dating is actually commitment. But dating is not commitment. What dating means is you're simply seeing people, and dating exactly means that, is seeing each other, spending time with each other to know that whether you're compatible or not. So the difference between dating and relationship is commitment. Yeah? So there's no commitment in dating. And when there's no commitment in dating, it also means that you are a single person, a single woman, and you're a free bird. Therefore, you're allowed to interact, see, date other people. And so is he. First of all, what I would ask this woman, because she was asking me what to do, and I think you should ask yourself this question. Number one, if you're wondering, like, okay, is this guy into me? What is this, right? First question is, do you actually want to be with this man? Like, if this guy would come to you tomorrow and ask you, will you be my girlfriend? Like, do you see a future with this guy? Do you see yourself in a relationship with him? Do you see yourself marrying this man? Do you see yourself having children with this man, right? So that's the first thing that you need to ask yourself. Because if the answer is no, then what's the point of dating? I mean, yes, I always say give men chances, but okay, sure. But beyond that initial contact of 3 dates, if you know that you don't see yourself with this guy long term, he doesn't check your boxes, you don't feel how you want to feel with this man, there's nothing here for you. You move on. So the first question is do you see a future with this guy? Does he fit into the box of your ideal avatar? And most importantly, do you feel how you want to feel with this man, right? The fact that he's older now, again, if you like my client, I'm not sure if she wants to have children or not, but obviously this is a consideration. And then, of course, you'd have to discuss it like a man. When a man is 50, does he have children? Does he want to still have children? So age comes into play. But regardless, so let's say your answer is yes, because it sounds like this man really backed off and said, I don't want to date before I get to know you better. I would actually clarify that and say, hey, John, for example, I was thinking about what you said, and I actually just want to clarify something. How do you define dating? Like, for you, does dating, and once you know you're compatible, so to say, does dating mean commitment in a relationship, or it just means continuing to see each other? My sense is that this man is going to say, well, I want to date, meaning like I want to be together with someone when I know we're compatible. Well, then you know that this is simply a miscommunication, or how should I call it, misalignment in terms of definitions. And then you can say, oh, I see, makes sense. Yeah, for me, just wanted to share, if you're interested, for me, dating is not that. Dating is simply what you mean, which is getting to know each other, which means that we're not committed, we're not in a relationship. That's how people date when they are getting to know each other, which means you're still single and you're also open to any other options. So I would communicate that to him, and you could say openly, I'm open to getting to know each other with you. To me, this equals dating. And I'm very clear that we're not in a relationship. That's it. So you can do that if you want to, if your answer is yes, and see how you go and be like, oh yeah, okay, then that's dating. Sure, I'd like to get to know you better. That's it. And then you just continue to date. So let's say this woman had not communicated, had not asked him for his intentions, had not set boundaries with him, right? And you were just in this kind of a blurry line where this guy is kind of like giving you friendly vibes and even calling it friends, which is definitely not friends. And you definitely like ask any man, in 90% of the time, you feel it and you know it when a guy's interested in you, especially when you go hang out as friends and he's like getting you coffee, inviting you over. A lot of men use the strategy, let's be friends, as a chance to get to know you, sleep with you, make you your girlfriend. That's just their strategy because it's a safe one. It's a safe one for him and for you, and you're kind of pretending that you're friends. And by the way, if you were in that stage for a long time, you got to do something about this because you're in a fucking situationship that you need to get out of. There's no friends. Like, it's romance. And God forbid if you're sleeping with this guy and you're still calling him your friend. Like, friend with benefits, I don't even know what that means, who came up with it. That needs to be erased from our vocabulary. But anyways, so within that scenario of, let's say you don't know what's happening with the guy or whatever, you don't even need to ask anything or communicate. What my client did, I would say that that's a good strategy. She's stating her intention, she's asking him about his intention, and then she stated her preference or boundary. Now, I think that a little miscommunication happened, right? The first she needs to ask herself, like, do I want to be with this guy? The other strategy that you could do, you just lean back, relax, and you continue to date, which means that you continue to see other men. So you see how I think that a lot of women, the mistake that they do is that they go into their head, they start to think about everything. And I'm not saying my client made a mistake, right? I would need to talk to her a little bit more to understand the situation and advise her on how to move forward. But we go into our head, we start to ask questions, and then, hey, I'm available for romance, right? And not being friends. And then, again, it's a miscommunication. But anyway, so you could just lean back and you just continue to see other men, period. The question that you ask yourself all the time, where is this going or what is it, is primarily because you're focused on one man and you're questioning his intentions. His intentions will become very, very clear very, very soon if you continue to date other men and focus on yourself and be out of your head. Why? Because if you continue to date other men, what this does is it refocuses you on all the possibilities and opportunities, and this guy who's giving you friendly vibes will actually pick up on that or sense that. And when you have your dating funnel, as I call it, there's always going to be a top contender. So if this guy is a slow mover, there's going to be another guy who's a faster mover, whose intentions are clearer, who you feel better with, and so on and so forth, right? Who's going to come up to the surface and eventually claim you as his woman, who you're going to spend more time with, so on and so forth. But this guy might just lose his chance with you. Or this guy might sense that something's going on, like, oh, are you actually seeing other men? And you'd be like, I wasn't aware that we are in a relationship, in an exclusive, committed, use these words, exclusive, committed relationship. He's can be like, well, you know, men's throw start like buff up and kind of his ego gets in and he's like, oh, well, of course we are in a relationship. Like, I didn't know that what are we in the 50s? Like, he's gonna start like buffling up. He might also, by the way, retreat massively. And this will be a huge bruise to his ego. A lot of men get very offended when they find out that you have been seeing other men. God forbid sleeping with other men. I mean, sleeping with other men is like a no-no in their book. And this is where it is your time to actually have a conversation with them and to really explain your position. And your position is that you have done this strategy in the past where a man, you know, asks for your number and you're dating and you're seeing him, but there's no commitment. And you have fallen into this trap in the past many, many times where you have fallen in love with a man, where you thought you were in a relationship, where you thought things were serious, but he wasn't there yet. And knowing that men take a lot longer to actually realize and step confidently into the container of a relationship, you choose the strategy of leaning back and allowing men to lead and to actually claim you as their girlfriend. Because you cannot afford as a woman to put all of your eggs in one basket and wait until he starts to be serious with you. So what you do, because it feels good in your body, is to know that you are single until you're not. And how are you not single anymore is when a man is directly, explicitly, and openly has a conversation with you about it, or like there's situations where it's extremely clear. I don't know, let's move in together. You know what I mean? But I would you can read these signs and it's very nuanced. You know, the fact that he might be talking about you to you about the future, or say he's even if he's introducing you as his girlfriend to family and friends, does not mean that you are in a relationship. You have to clarify with him. So say you're dating a man and you're going somewhere and he's introducing you as his girlfriend to friends, it'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I'd bring it up to him afterwards and say, hey, you know, we went to this event and it felt really good in my body that you introduced me as your girlfriend. This is the first time I've heard that. What's that about? What's that about? And he'd be like, oh, what do you mean? Like, there's tons of scenarios, right? Well, there's still only 2 scenarios. He'd be like, what do you mean? Of course you're my girlfriend. Like, and you're like, wait, what? When did you decide that? And how did that happen for you? Oh, it happened organically. Okay. Well, okay. So, and then you kind of sit with that and be like, do I want to be his girlfriend? Like, this is serious, right? Like, we're entering into a commitment. Yeah? So, but on the other hand, he might say like, oh, you know, like, I just said that because they're my parents and whatnot. And then you're like, ask him the same question, like, what do you mean by that? Where did that come from? Okay. So then you are further just clarifying to yourself that this is not a relationship and you are still single. Okay? So I'm hoping this is making sense.